Well, absolutely delighted today to have with us Your Excellency. Welcome. We have the High Commissioner of India to Canada here, Mr. Vikas Swarup, and absolutely very happy to have you join us. We're looking forward to having a little bit of a conversation, sharing it with our community and share some thoughts. And maybe I will kick it off, Your Excellency, with a very general question. Can you tell us a little bit about your interest and why you think Canadian universities are of particular importance or interest with respect to India?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is my first visit to the University of Guelph, and I've spent the whole day at your fantastic institution, which has a history of more than 150 years, and I've been completely bowled over by the amount of research that is happening here, the kind of cutting-edge technologies that you have in your laboratories and your institutes, and most of all, by the potential for partnership with India, many of which are already happening, and many more I hope will happen as a result of my visit and the enormous interest that I hope I will be able to now generate back home in India to partner with the University of Guelph. So you asked me what is so special about Canadian universities. I think of all the countries in the world, Canada has one of the best educational systems, particularly for higher education. You have 96 world-class universities, all of which have a niche in some area or the other. Guelph in particular has niches in areas of immediate interest to India. Yes. We are still a largely agricultural country. Your expertise in agriculture and agri-food is legendary. Then in bovine genetics also, then now in biodiversity with the fantastic new institute that you have. I think in all these areas, in veterinary medicine, I see that India can partner with the University of Guelph and can benefit from the cutting edge research that you people are doing. So I always like to say this, the University of Guelph has its motto to improve life. And in India, you will see the maximum potential for improving those lives. And that's why I think the partnership between the University of Guelph and India fits in perfectly, and it's a win-win partnership for both our countries.
Oh, what wonderful, wonderful thoughts there. And you know, one of the things that we're very proud of in Canada is actually the quality of our public universities. You know, all the universities in Canada are public, and it's interesting. I just came back from a Universities Canada meeting, which is the organization that represents all 96 of those universities. And you know, Canada is a large territory with a relatively small population. But it is, it's a country that is surprisingly strong in terms of its identity. And the Canadian identity. And perhaps you could comment on that in relation to India today and the dynamic growth that it's going through, the values and the kind of identity that Canada represents, how you see that bridging with India.
As you know, Mr. President, India is now the fastest growing major economy in the world. Our growth this first quarter was 8.2%. For the next 20 years, almost all major economists believe that India will grow at a minimum of 7.5 to 7.9%. So that offers a huge opportunities for Canadian businesses, first and foremost. Secondly, India is a very young country. 65% of our population is under the age of 35. Yes. And we have a lot of requirement of young people getting a quality education. So currently 125,000 Indian students study in Canada. And just as you said that there is this strong Canadian identity, there is a strong Indian identity. Mm-hmm. It's an Indian identity which believes in pluralism, which believes in inclusiveness. And in today's day and age, when we see that the world is getting increasingly fragmented, when narrow domestic walls are being constructed to keep the other out, when fences are being built, borders are being constructed, India and Canada speak in the voice of a united world. Yes. We both believe that diversity is a strength, not a weakness. Yes. We believe that everybody should be carried together. And that is why I personally believe that the partnership between India and Canada has the most potential of any partnership in the 21st century.
You know, when we think about two words, diversity and inclusion, it's the two of them together that are important. And I think India, you know, symbolizes that, but not just symbolizes, actually walks the talk in a big way. It not only speaks to diversity, but it actually speaks to inclusion. I heard an interesting metaphor the other day that diversity is about being invited to the dance. Inclusion is actually dancing together. And I think India certainly represents that, and I would say that Canada, you know, with its history of multiculturalism, particularly its recent history. So this is something that I think we're all very excited about. Potential partnerships that could emerge between India as a country, and it's much more than a country. It's a concept, as you said in your talk, and the University of Guelph. Perhaps you could say a little bit more about your thoughts about the University of Guelph in particular, and areas that you see as representing real opportunities for us to work together, because I can tell you there's an enormous amount of excitement within our community here as we think more and more about internationalism, and India features prominently in our thinking.
So, Mr. President, you yourself in your tenure, I think, have given a much more international focus to University of Guelph's outreach efforts, and in particular you have focused on India. And I think you have chosen very wisely, because India, as I mentioned, will be the third largest economy in the world. This is a country which is not only, as I said, a very big leader now in terms of business, but is also a country with a very ancient tradition. It's the land of Buddha and Mahatma Gandhi. So you have the philosophical ideas of inclusiveness, Sarv Dharm Sambhav, equal respect for all religions, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the entire world is one family. So you have that strand, and then you have the modern India, where today India is now the third largest tech startup location globally. After the US and the UK, the highest number of startups are now in India. We are expected to have no less than 11,000 startups by 2020. Yes. Now we can benefit from the ecosystem that already exists in Canada around startups, for instance. And then when you talk about the University of Guelph, you are a university which is focused on the needs of the local community. You are, in a sense, for the province of Ontario itself, their research arm for anything to do with veterinary and with agri-food. And that's why these are the two areas of immediate interest to us, because we are still a relatively poor country in terms of our per capita income, and because a large percentage of our population is still engaged in agriculture, and because a large percentage of that agriculture is still dependent on the monsoon, I think we will benefit enormously from AI-based predictive technology on weather forecasting. We will benefit enormously from bovine genetics. We will benefit enormously from this new biodevelopment center that you have created, which is using waste from farm to convert it into bio-sustainable products which can rival plastic. Yes. So I think in all these areas I see enormous potential for collaboration. And what has also impressed me is the number of Indian students who are now studying at Guelph, and the number of Indian faculty that you have now. And that gives me even more strength to believe that we will have those partnerships, because we have people in the university who are from India and yet who are Canadians, who know both countries, who know both cultures, and who can be the best connectors between our two great countries. And you yourself, I think, embody that idea of connections.
Well, one of the things that really excites me about the linkages that you're talking about from both the science and technology point of view, together in the context of agriculture and related areas like that, is the different levels of analysis. India is such a heterogeneous country. They're so diverse, it's so variable in so many ways. And I think about the opportunities that are afforded both at, for example, the precision agriculture, high technology area, but also local solutions, simple solutions. Wherever you go in India now, someone has a cell phone. They may have a limited education in some of those cases, but they've got a cell phone, they have a device. And to bring the power of that technology locally is very exciting, together with the broader opportunities with precision agriculture, things like that. Question that I have, when I think about the entrepreneurial spirit in India, which is incredible, and I think you mentioned in your talk, it's in the DNA. It is in the DNA. And you can see it, and it's captured by just the pace of change and how technology is evolving, and the use of technology is so rapidly. There was a time when we used to talk about the sea of knowledge, and the sea is a body of water. Now I think really we're in a time where it's a fast-flowing river of knowledge. And navigating a sea or a lake is very different from navigating a fast-flowing river. And so I guess the question I have, what are the challenges and the opportunities? We've talked a little bit about the opportunities, but what are the challenges of shifting from that kind of navigational ability? And in India, of course, you've had long-standing ways of doing things. It's a civilization that goes back so long. And the rapidity of that change, which requires a different set of skills, a different approach. Perhaps you could comment.
Yes, I think there are a couple of points I'll make. First and foremost, the government itself is now using technology to leapfrog its development goals. So if you've heard of a project called JAM, J-A-M, this is the linking of Jan Dhan accounts, which are bank accounts for the unbanked poor. 329 million of them have been opened over the last 4 years. They are being linked to Aadhaar, which is a biometric identity program, which now covers 1.15 billion Indians. And that is now being linked to mobile phones, since almost every Indian has a mobile phone. Yes. And what we are doing this, we are using this JAM program to send aid and subsidies directly to the intended beneficiaries by cutting out the middlemen, by cutting out corruption. Wow. And already this has resulted in savings of $13 billion. Then the government has plans to link all of India's 600,000 villages by fiber optic cable to create a digital India where the speed of information sharing can be much faster than it is today. And the advantage of today's technology is so intuitive. Yes. Even a person who has no education can use a cell phone and can use it to download stuff, to use it to chat with people and all. The challenge that we are going to face is that not only is technology changing, the economy itself is changing. There is the old economy of manufacturing and blue-collar jobs, and now a new economy is coming, which is of robotics, which is artificial intelligence, cybernetics, machine learning. And all the reports that I have read do say that many million jobs will be lost in the old economy, but many more will be created in the new economy. The challenge for us is, how do we manage that transition? How do we ensure that the people who will lose the jobs in the old economy are able to find sustainable jobs in the new economy? And that's where I think universities like Guelph can come in, because you not only do research, you do research with a human dimension. Yes. And if you can help us navigate this transition, I think you will be doing us a huge service.
This is so important, what you said. I'm a big believer in the power of transitions, and therefore the care we have to take during transitions. Technology will unfold at the rate that it unfolds at, but human beings, for the most part, haven't changed that much. We still have the same emotions, we have the same fears, the same hopes, the same desires. So how we deal with these transitions and making sure that we do the best we can to smooth those transitions, even if they're fast, but to smooth and pay attention to those. So I really love your comment about thinking about the social sciences, the arts, and how we bridge that with with the science and technology that moves forward.
Absolutely. This next year we will celebrate the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Yes. And Mahatma Gandhi was a great believer in the human spirit. Yes. And that is why he said, have technological advancement, have industrialization, but not at the expense of dehumanization. Yes. So I think that human element is very important in whatever technology we use.
Your Excellency, I just want to say how fortunate, first of all, Canada is to have you in the role as our High Commissioner to India, and how fortunate the University of Guelph is to have you visiting today and sharing your thoughts. And we're going to have a wonderful dinner waiting for us downstairs where we'll be able to continue our discussion. But in the meantime, again, thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you,
your leadership and your foresight.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me say how fortunate we in India are to have such a strong partner in the form of the University of Guelph, and to have such a strong leader as you, who's leading the partnership with India. And I'm sure under your leadership, the partnership is only going to get strengthened, and we'll go from one level to the next level.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.